So in today's video, I want to talk about some updates I want to see in New Horizons and potentially future Animal Crossing games. Just to start off, this list will mostly be things I want to see, as it looks like Nintendo's going to add back a lot of content from previous Animal Crossing games such as the cafe, gyroids, and diving. So I'll try to not focus on those aspects as much in this video. As I'm making this list, some of the things I suggest might seem out of scope considering Nintendo's track record with current games, so consider these suggestions as not only things I want to see in updates, but also future games down the line. And as well, this list is not in any particular order, I just wrote them down, and these are just suggestions or ideas I had or wanted to see in New Horizons as I played the game. So without further ado, let's start off with my first pick. So Animal Crossing Wild World, despite all the features I got cut from population growing, it did add the inclusion of events called episodes for special characters like Tom Nook, the Able Sisters, Blathers, Pelly, that fleshed out their characters a little bit and allowed the player to get to know them. Information like the Able Sisters' backstory and how close Nook is with Sable came from these episodes and really made the world of Animal Crossing more alive, knowing that these characters had a history to talk about. Episodes did return in City Folk, only one of them did this time though, but it did add a new episode for the new character Label, which explained a relationship with LaBelle and the Able Sisters. Evidently, these quote-unquote episodes did not make a return in New Leaf or in New Horizons. The closest we've gotten to episodes are the unique dialogues some NPCs have in games like Happy Home Designer. It seems a little odd that New Leaf added a lot of new NPCs like Isabel, Digby, Reese, and Cyrus, but decided not to bring back episodes to flesh them out, making them feel less like characters and more like menu interfaces. Electing not to do so, in my opinion, made me not care as much for them as I do with Tom Nook or Sable. And it's no different with the New Horizon characters. Overall, the episode idea has a lot of potential to flesh out a lot of the existing NPCs that don't really have the spotlight like Isabel, and it seems like a wasted opportunity not to bring them back, especially when the regular villagers have become more of an accessory now with how samey they feel now. So all in all, I'd like to see them bring back this concept. This one's simple. I would like for there to be an option for you to buy a second island that houses different villagers, similar to how it worked in population growing. I feel that since when we have a terraforming tool and only one place to use it, I think a new smaller island to play around would be a nice goal to reach. It could serve as a little Happy Home Designer-esque mode where you design an island based on a villager's requests. Mostly, I just wanted a way for more villagers since the cap for New Horizons is just 10 despite the bigger space we have compared to New Leaf. And a side note, but I realized that the cap is 10 because we can have a number of player villagers, I think up to 8, have their own houses on the island and put them anywhere, unlike how it worked in Wild World where they all shared one house. But I still don't think that should be a reason for the downsides, especially when it's possible that there will be only one player villager on the island. It doesn't have to be an island the same size as the current one we have, but maybe half the size of it, but it would be a nice goal to work towards. An easy way to add new villagers to the game, maybe even having them as second island exclusives. To my surprise, from what I've seen, quite a lot of folks don't particularly like the soundtrack for New Horizons, and I'm one of them. I mean, we went from straight bangers like this to any song from New Horizons. Now, music is subjective and people have different tastes, but I think this time we can all agree that the previous games had more rounded and varied soundtracks, especially when it came to the hourly music. I mean, can you really tell most of the songs in New Horizons apart? Because I can't, and I don't even remember most of them in the first place. I've seen this idea thrown around for a while now, but it'd be great if there was an option to change music to previous games. First, I didn't really think about this idea too much, but recently I was playing Rune Factory 4 Special, and after you beat or unlock certain conditions in that game, there's an option where you can unlock different soundtracks for the game, which consists of the previous soundtracks from previous Rune Factory games. And it kind of hit me. It would be fantastic if there's a way to change the Animal Crossing New Horizons soundtrack to previous Animal Crossing games to make the day-to-day antics less monotonous and could even serve as a nice unlockable if implemented right. I can see data size being an issue, but fix for that would be to simply just have them be downloadable from the Nintendo eShop if they really didn't feel like loading the base game's initial file size. Looking at Nintendo's previous games and their file sizes, I really don't think that's a really big deal. So either way, it'd be a nice addition, as I really dislike most of the tracks from New Horizons. I know I keep up bringing up population growing, but it had a lot of fun activities you can watch your villagers take part in, like the sports fair and the Cherry Blossom Festival. I think that a way to add them back in would be to give the player the ability to set up these events. This can happen by having your villagers ask for them, or just going up to resident service and there being an option to set up events. These events would liven up your island, giving your villagers something to do on the island other than just running around and sitting all the time, and give the players also something to do with their villagers. As it stands right now, yes, you can place items all over your island, but it seems like it's luck of the draw if your villagers actually interact with these items. In my case, my villagers mainly just stick around resident service, even though I have like a campsite, like an actual campsite by the tent and everything, stuff by the museum. They never go there. They just like to stick to either their houses or close to resident services. So it'd be cool to have an event, have a special place on your island where the event takes place, and all your villagers will group up there who want to participate, and they'll just be there. Either way, I think it would be a cool idea, so that's why I'm including it. So in the Welcome Amiibo update for New Leaf, it added 2 unique items, the new Nintendo 3DS and a Wii U. You could collect these items and they will allow you to access their respective mini-games, which were Puzzle League or Desert Island Escape from Amiibo Festival. These were really cool items and just expanded what you could do in New Leaf, and it also, in my opinion, addressed the issue with the removal of NES games from the GameCube original. Honestly, I don't think when people say they want NES games back to collect in Animal Crossing games, they actually mean that. I think they just want a collectible that you can obtain in the game that offers a purpose other than to decorate, which these 2 items did. It was a really cool idea considering it was part of a free update. Today's gaming space, hidden playable games within a game are a rare occurrence, so seeing something like that come back to Animal Crossing was a nice treat. I am rambling, but the Animal Crossing games do have items such as the arcade and pinball machines, and even playing card sets you can collect, but can't actually use them. It would be really nice to see them expand on that idea and what they did with the 3DS and Wii U console items. Expand on it for New Horizons. It doesn't have to be super expansive, but I'd like to at least see something rather than nothing at all. I'd even take simple mini games akin to what you see in Super Mario 64 DS, but personally I love to see something like another Puzzle League type game that calls back to a forgotten Nintendo franchise and has a small storyline to go with it that might seem like a lot, but they did it for New Leaf, so I don't see why they couldn't do more with a more powerful hardware and budget. So in conclusion, I just want mini games akin to what we got in the Welcome Amiibo update. Plain and simple, I want those special Amiibo Villagers returned for New Horizon. If not, I'd like to at least see some new special Amiibo Villagers like Pearl and Marina inspired villagers, or even ones based on Nintendo animal characters like the Star Fox crew. I've seen that like the Sanrio characters and their Amiibo cards technically work in the game, but want to see, if not returning Amiibo Villagers, I want some new ones to be introduced in New Horizons. If I had it my way, I'd find Isabelle another purpose other than to look cute in the resident center. Maybe have her actually be out on your island like Timmy and Tommy used to be, observing your island and talking to villagers, getting feedback on the island. It frankly seems really unbelievable she's able to tell you what the other characters think about your town when she's in that building 24/7. Same goes for what she talks about in her announcements, like watching certain TV shows. I can see why she sort of needs to be there all the time in case players want to check on or change something, but like NPCs that got cut, they could have just fixed this problem by having an accessory on the desk, similar how the mirror changes your look, like having a notebook on a desk, and you can just change your town tune. Also, since I'm on the topic, I'd like to see all the NPCs out and about your island and not just stuck in the building all day, because frankly, I'm being led to believe they literally just live inside their buildings once they close. For the store clerks, it'd be easy for them to just be out of their shops whenever their respective stores close. So I'd like to see something along those lines in the next game, if it's not in Horizons, because I'm pretty sure they never do something like this for New Horizons the way it is. What I mean by this are the interactions you have with characters like Wisp and Gulliver. Although it may be nice to see them both back in their previous roles from previous games, your interactions with them are pretty vapid and repetitive since they barely acknowledge your previous encounter with them. Talking about you, Wisp. I either like to see these interactions evolve somehow, or that there be new NPC interactions that are more involved. For example, after you help Wisp or Gulliver a couple of times, they find themselves in a new situation they need your help in, like Wisp being stuck in a lamp this time and you have to go find him instead, like in City Folk, or Gulliver ends up in a UFO again and you need to shoot him down. For new encounters, I just say bring back characters like Katie and having the player give her a tour of your town, or even Gracie Grace shows up on your island and makes you do chores for her. Even though characters like Celeste and LaBelle give you items when you talk to them, it's still pretty shallow having them just show up and they really don't interact with you. Less so for LaBelle. So I'd like to see this part of New Horizons improved in updates, hopefully. It's always odd to me how there would be villagers that moved into your tent/island and they would talk about how cool it was, yet they never seem to leave their tent at any point. It's really weird that they don't even go out and mingle with the other villagers. For older games, I chalk this up to being due to hardware limitations, but that simply can't be the case for New Horizons since we have special NPCs that randomly roam around our islands alongside our regular villagers. Having them wander around would be a nice surprise to see, and it'd give a real context to when they talk about how great your island is. I know this skill list is getting bloated by now, but it boggles my mind how the tools are handled in this game. In New Horizons, there are flimsy tools, which are your starting tools of the game, the regular tools, which you get from the shop and you can craft, and the customized tools, which are only in the shops, but act just like regular tools. And then lastly, there are golden tools, which are the top ranking tools, but they break. Granted, they take a long time to break, but they still break. For the flimsy tools, and even the non-golden ones, makes sense to fit with the crafting mechanic for having them being broken, but having the golden tools break is pretty questionable. The fact that they can break devalues the motivation to get them, since you're going to need materials to make them, and even more when they eventually break, taking away resources from other things you could craft that don't break. It also doesn't help that the customized tools aren't that different from the regular ones, having the same breaking point. And on top of that, the better tier tools don't even do anything substantially different from the previous tool sets. What I mean by this is that the regular, customized, and golden shovel, for instance, don't have any differences between them besides usage amount. If you played the previous games in the series, you'll notice that I didn't mention another set of tools, which would be the silver tools. The nice thing about the silver tools were that they served as a nice reward to find and sometimes gave you enhanced abilities of that version of the tool. For instance, the silver watering can in the old games gave better chances at growing money trees and hybrids, or even the silver slingshot, which shot multiple pellets instead of just one. What I'm trying to get at is that the golden tools in New Horizons feel like a worse version of the silver tools and are gotten in a pretty boring way compared to how you would get, say, the silver axe in Wild World or City Folk. Now I have a suspicion that they know the golden tools suck and have probably planned on introducing a new material or method to craft an unbreakable tool in the game, but it seems like a huge oversight to leave out the silver tools and essentially merge them into the golden tools, but worse this time around. This is less of a suggestion since they're probably going to do this anyways, but they need to introduce a way to craft unbreakable tools and make the means of obtaining them interesting. Not this nonsense where you have to do a repetitive chore like saving Gulliver 100 times and magically your villager just, oh, I can make a golden tool now. Nonsense. I want quests like the way you get the silver axe in Wild World, or even in City Folk, you can throw your axe in a watering fountain, and depending on the answers you get either a silver axe or a golden axe. And I want them to have enhanced abilities, like similarly how they used to have. I don't want just these unbreakable new tools to just be the same. I want them to have some unique abilities to them. I know this might be a shot in the dark, but since we only have 8 personality types between the villagers and the dialogue's kind of really samey at this point in time, I think it'd be nice to have an ongoing special event or scenario happen between the multiple villager types. Granted, this does still sort of happen already, albeit it's only for a day, but it's usually just dialogue fluff, in my opinion. And what I mean by this is that this is an example I had. A jock villager and a lazy villager will have a conversation where the jock suggests that the lazy one should run laps with them around the island, yet they never do, no matter what response you give the lazy villager on whether or not he should or shouldn't. There's really no reason for this dialogue to exist other than for maybe a quick laugh the first time you see it before the dozens of times it repeats, but I digress. The point is that instead of just having one of these dialogue events happen only for like 5 minutes of a day, there should be ones that kind of evolve over a couple of days. And if you want an example, in Broom Factory 4 there are these town events that happen, and they usually last multiple days. I know Broom Factory works on a different clock system than Animal Crossing, but in Animal Crossing I think they could do the same thing, where if not multiple days but different hours of the day, where like 2 different villager types plan to do an event at a certain time, and you can actually go see. I guess for example, like there's another example where one villager asks another villager, do you want to go fishing with me? They arrange a date and time to actually go fishing, and if you choose to, you can listen on to their conversation and find out where they're going to be at, and then at that day and time you can join in on their conversation, and they'll have like unique things to say, what fish they got and whatever. Something like that, something along the lines of that, other than just dialogue fluff. But yeah, that was just an example, but I would like to see more events happen. This one I'm really just asking for more interactivity with Pocket Camp. I know that when you connect to Pocket Camp to New Horizons that you get a handful of items you can order or unlock, which is nice, but I remember in Wild World you could import your character from that game into City Folk, and with that it also included some items from your catalog from that game. I think that was a really neat feature, and I'm surprised that a feature like that hasn't come back for New Horizons, considering there is a Pocket Camp is technically the portable Animal Crossing game now, and New Horizons is now, I'll just say, hybrid Animal Crossing games. But I think just having it be like a handful of items is kind of wasted potential, because there are some really crazy items in Pocket Camp, and I get that Pocket Camp's kind of more designed to just show off than just having substance to them. But I would like some more interactivity, like maybe like specifically I wanted to see like clothes, like the hair items you can get in that game. I would love to see that in New Horizons. Just better, or continuing the connectivity with Pocket Camp, because they're still supporting Pocket Camp even though New Horizons is out. So I don't think they're just gonna dump Pocket Camp anytime soon, especially with these new updates I see. Even though I don't play the game, I still see them on Nintendo's mobile channel. It's clear that they're not gonna stop supporting that game. So I would like to see some more cool items from Pocket Camp make it over to New Horizons, and even better connectivity from Pocket Camp to New Horizons in some way. Essentially, the last point concerning villager dialogue, I want to see an update that adds a wealth of new dialogue to the game, so that talking to villagers doesn't feel like an unnecessary waste of time. If you play the game just for a little bit, you can see what I'm talking about. The villagers just don't seem to have anything interesting to talk to you about, which leads them to just repeating themselves, which becomes an even bigger problem when you have villagers with the same personality types together in the same island. I don't know what happened with the localization team for the Animal Crossing games, but they seem to be getting worse and worse with each new entry. First with getting rid of the mean villagers, then making them too nice, and then now rarely having any interesting dialogue to the point where they just spout nonsense for most of the time. Now, that may seem harsh to say, but it never feels like any of the villagers care to have an actual conversation with you, unlike how it felt in the previous games, before New Leaf at least. They actually talk to you and have interesting dialogue with you and the other villagers. It might be my placebo talking in regards to the older games, but regardless, I want to see new dialogue so that talking to new villagers doesn't feel pointless as it does right now. So that's my list of things I'd like to see in the future, whether it be New Horizons or the next mainline game. To be frank, I'm pretty disappointed with New Horizons, as it feels like the game itself doesn't know who it wants to cater towards. As the game is now, it's primarily catered towards players who mostly care about the decorating aspects of these games, as every other aspect of the series is frankly lackluster, even without comparing it to previous games. As you might have guessed from this list, I'm not one of these players. I much prefer the life sim aspects of Animal Crossing that the earlier games better provided rather than decorating. I made this list more so as a vent, as I really don't know what the team behind New Horizons or Nintendo have in store for this game, since they seem hell-bent on treating this game as a full-price early access experience. As it stands, it makes more sense to me to not play the game again until a decent amount of content gets added in, and depending on when and how much is in each update, that could take a while. To be honest, I highly doubt many of these things I mentioned will be implemented in the slightest, as I think New Horizons is built a certain way that it need to be a different game altogether, which is why I mentioned that I'd also want to see these ideas implemented into a new Animal Crossing game in the future. Anyways, that's enough rambling. That was my list, and I would love to know what you thought about it, or what do you like to see in the future, whether it be for New Horizons or a future game. Anyway, thanks for watching, and leave a like if you liked the video. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching.